Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's day is Monday, the 18th of August 2025, the year BSV comes alive. Branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai or your post put on chain. Right, let's see what we've got today. Again, after Terranode goes live, we've got CSW trying to educate these shitcoiners. Shitcoiners with shit for brains. It's never going to happen, but we know that all shitcoiners with shit for brains, the only thing they respond to is number go up. And we know that's going to happen anyway, but at least he's giving them a reasonable chance by explaining to them what's going to happen. Jacob King is warning them as always, saying, look, Foundry USA will just mined 8 blocks consecutively. This is extremely alarming. Even many Bitcoiners, shitcoiners, I know, are starting to panic. You know, it's completely centralized. He also said Bitcoin is down a mere 1%, yet over 360 million has been liquidated in the past 24 hours, including more than 100 million in the last 60 minutes. Yeah, oh dear. Crypto Crate also said here, you want to see what a quiet $897 million move looks like? This BTC address is sitting on 7.7 thousand BTC. Now look at the exact same address on BSV. It's the number 2 wallet, and it's been on an insane buying spree. Now holding 346,000 BSV. Well, can you imagine Michael Saylor when he finds out that Bitcoin is BSV? We've got this amazing article here by Anna Iverson. We might not get through it because it's so long, but it sounds fantastic. We've got some 365 days of Bitcoin history. Today is the anniversary of the purchase of Bitcoin.org, and then we'll finish with the Kellen Schweller countdown. Right, let's get into it.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, and transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terranode, you'll surely see.
Here we go. I'm just checking my mic settings. Right. So in response to some more shitcoiners, this was with regard to his a billion transactions every second for 20 minutes leaves you staring down $1.2 trillion entries that must all be stitched into the ledger. Sam Parker, who sounds like a shitcoiner, said, it's not the scalability of a timestamp server anyone questions. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. They said a timestamp server using blockchain technology can't scale. That's exactly what the shitcoiners have said. But he says it's the scalability of being able to audit whether or not a UTXO can be double spent, and that script policy has been globally adhered to. Again, subversion, what that is. Ruda Silva correcting him here. He says double spending is not prevented by trust, it is prevented by a protocol consensus and validation rules applied to every node. Double spend detection is trivially solved in the Bitcoin design. Bitcoin was explicitly invented to eliminate the need for a trusted third party to prevent double spends. That's the entire point of the system. Here's how it works. Yeah. And even after explaining this to Sam Parker said the UTXO set is global in Bitcoin since the only way it can be constructed and or validated is by processing all the historical transactions. A simplified payment verification proof does not conceive that a coin has not been spent with a company. He's talking shit here. Can't be bothered with that. But anyway, CSW has jumped in there when he said the whole simplified payment verification isn't enough mantra collapses once you remember that the block header is the integrity proof. Every transaction is chained on into the Merkle root, and every header is chained into the longest proof of work chain. A simplified payment verification wallet doesn't need to download and recheck every byte of every block. It checks headers, confirms work, and validates its own transactions via Merkle path. That alone gives more security than any pointless home node pretending to detect double spends. Home nodes aren't watching the global network, they're just locally replaying the data. The miners who extend the longest chain, resolve double spends, and simplify payment verification clients see the resolution immediately in the headers. Anyone claiming that simplified payment verification is insufficient simply doesn't grasp that the security lies in the proof of work chain itself, not in whether you waste bandwidth downloading full blocks. And he's replied saying, well, Sam Parker, the shitcoiner, said, I wonder why Satoshi suggested businesses would probably want to run their own full nodes then. And this is where CSW explains. He said the sleight of hand lie here is obvious. Take a single line from an email and pretend it was some universal commandment. Satoshi said businesses will want to run full nodes, yes, under a very specific condition. High volume transactions. In other words, entities moving so many payments so quickly that it made sense for them to run an integration server directly tied to miners. That's not every coffee shop, every dry cleaner and every kid with a Raspberry Pi. It was explicitly a limited number of businesses whose role demands it. Yeah, like all the big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, country central banks, like the biggest corporations in the world will all become nodes because they will be securing their own data on the Bitcoin network. And they can profit from that, and they can profit by not only securing their own customers' transactions, but also winning the occasional block reward. That's how it works. The irony is that this has been public for years. The words are right here. Quote here. Businesses that receive many payments will probably want to run their own node. That doesn't mean your own home hobby box. It doesn't mean every e-commerce site on earth. It doesn't even mean most companies. It means exactly what it says, a small number of high volume receivers. The rest of the world, they use simplified payment verification. They always did. That was the entire point. Trying to inflate this into some mythical doctrine of everyone must run a full node is dishonest, sloppy, or both. A node is not a magic democratic voting booth. It is infrastructure, it is cost, a responsibility, and only makes sense at scale. Pretending otherwise is cargo cult theatre, where people mistake the observation tower for the airliner. So let's state it plainly. Satoshi never told the world to run full nodes. He noted that some businesses with very high throughput might find it practical. Everyone else, simplified payment verification, simple proofs, headers, checks, Merkle inclusions. That's the design. That's the brilliance. That's the part that works. But of course, it's easier to pretend that you're fulfilling some ideological prophecy by running a basement hobby rig than to actually understand how the system was designed. Yeah, and what I find actually intriguing here is that CSW has baited the deep state, like Greg Maxwell and his cronies, into doing what he already suggested in the white paper, knowing that they would purposely misinterpret it. And therefore, I think they've been too busy subverting the white paper, not realizing that the memory pool itself alone was enough to just simply mean the Bitcoin network couldn't be used for sort of Web3. And now they're just like, oh shit, not only have we restricted the capacity down to 1 megabyte and removed all economic value, there is absolutely no way in hell they could ever scale to absorb the world's internet traffic. There's no way they could do it. And now that they're thinking, oh shit, let's try and reverse the trend, they're being called out by Bitcoin knots, who are all the shitcoiners that they've actually developed themselves, who actually think that the NFT data of Bitcoin is digital gold. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, wow. Jacob King says, if Foundry USA pool just mined 8 blocks consecutively, this is extremely alarming. Even many shitcoiners, the great coiners I know, are starting to panic. I've been warning people for years. Gradecoin is dangerously centralized. A tiny group of miners and insiders dominate both the network and its price, and this is just more proof. Another massive red flag. Blocks are now sitting empty while fees have plummeted to 1 sat VB. Literally, I think VB, I have to look at that. Literally, no one is using a Gradecoin. And look at that. So if you control the network, then clearly you can subvert the block fee to those who you want it to go to. And that's what it looks like here. I mean, that is extremely unusual, but I mean, it is completely centralized. And the Gradecoin developers can literally make any alterations they want via Taproot and SegWit because no one knows what they're doing. They have complete control of the network. And all the shitcoiners that were just like, oh, Bitcoin's meant to be by a community consensus. Well, they found that that's a load of bullshit because Blockstream have literally just gone against their own narrative of, Bitcoin is just simply meant to be used for payments. In fact, not even payments, store of value, digital dog shit, to now, we're going to allow spam on the network. And they're just like, well, hold on a minute. We've had two effectively sort of Bitcoin wars over scaling to which you disagreed on, and now you're going back on your own argument. You know, it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I'll see if I can find that one. Jacob King has also said here, Gradecoin is down a mere 1%, yet over $360 million has been liquidated in the last 24 hours, including more than $100 million in the last 60 minutes. This highlights just how over-leveraged the market is near all-time highs. A major crash is inevitable, and it will be catastrophic for investors, especially when everyone rushes for the exits at once. Again, so what the cabal are going to do is exactly what they did in 1929 with the Great Depression. They caused the bubble and then they exited before they caused the crash and literally reduced the amount of currency in circulation by a third. No wonder they crashed, but they'd already got out. They invested between 1918 and 1920 when everybody was focused on the bird flu pandemic after they'd injected all the soldiers with the vaccine before sending off to the front lines in Europe. Coming back, said they had Spanish flu, 2 years of all the soldiers dying, a mass population decrease. And then they started the bubble to multiply the profits that they'd made from World War One by a huge amount. And this is just simply what they're doing here. It looks to me like they're getting out. That's what I would say. It looks like Satoshi Nakamoto called it. I would say, I wonder, they've been keeping tabs on him. I wonder if he's been keeping tabs on them. That would not surprise me at all. Talk about flipping the script. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. And Crypto Crate said here, you want to see what a quiet $897 million move looks like? This BTC address is sitting on 7,700 BTC. Now look at the exact same address on BSV. It's the number 2 wallet and it's been on an insane buying spree, now holding 346,000 genuine Bitcoin. He said, you don't accidentally do this. This is a deliberate massive shift. The smart money is repositioning for what's coming. The great wealth transfer isn't a meme. All right. So there's a BSV address with a 346,000 BSV in there. This is the buying spree. So on the 9th of July, 51,000 Bitcoin, 54,000 Bitcoin, 44,000 Bitcoin, 46,000 Bitcoin. Whoa, 12,000 and 35,000 literally on the 13th, a few days ago. Wow. This is the address. So this is BTC. So 7,700 BTC, which is $897,000. So is he saying that's the same address? 162BZ, ending HHW. 162BZ, ending HHW. Wow. So he's saying that they think they might be correlated. Don't think they are, but could be wrong. Speculative. Yeah, look. Yeah, that's the address. And this is BSV, same address. Uh, 162, yeah, HHW. Now look at all these purchases. Jeepers. Jeepers. Certainly going to be one of the richest people in the world. We worked out the other day that even if you had sort of 2,000 Bitcoin, 21 million divided by 2,000, and that's provided if it was distributed evenly around the world, only 10,500 people could be holding 2,000 genuine Bitcoin. That's literally it. 10,500 people in the entire world could have 2,000 genuine Bitcoin. And then you've got wallets here with millions in. Like, whoa, that seriously cuts down the number of people that have got over 1,000 genuine Bitcoin by a huge amount. You know what? I might even put a little bit of time into estimating how many people could actually be holding that amount of Bitcoin. Whoa. That's why it has to go into people who know the truth and know what's coming. All right, let's get into this. We've got 16 minutes gone already. This is a long article here by Anna Iverson, but having spoken to me, she said she wanted the length to be worthy of the information that was contained in it. So let's have a look at this. So she said, Bitcoin restored. Why only BSV can turn data into lawful global commodity? Which is the NFT data. All right. Digital data, the world's most valuable resource. What if the world's most valuable resource wasn't oil, gold, or even information itself, but the ability to lawfully run digital data into a commodity? Lawfully turn digital data into commodity. But value without ownership is exploitation. Imagine a system where we could convert our digital footprint into a tradable asset, a potential direct source of income, while preserving the data's integrity, free from theft, plagiarism and censorship. And that is not all. Such a system would restore trust, require individuals, businesses and public entities to play an honest game, accountable for the unalterable data trail left behind. For decades, we've treated digital data as a mere byproduct of our online lives, gathering and exploited by the big tech companies who own the platforms. Some of the world's largest companies are data monopolies, not because they make the data, but because they control the infrastructure and rules for its use. With ownership and control solidly planted in their court, our digital lives have been reduced to raw material for someone else to benefit from, financially and otherwise insidiously, serving as a tool that restricts our personal and civic freedoms. But what if the story of data could be rewritten? There is another possibility rarely discussed, where digital data itself becomes a commodity, which the creator of the data can claim property rights over and capitalize on it. Digital data itself becomes a commodity, which the creator... there can't be a creator of a digital commodity. The creator can create a digital product. The commodity is the Bitcoin itself. But we'll let this one slide. Which the creator can claim property rights over and capitalize on. Not through the platforms, the servers or the algorithms, but on the data itself. Imagine a world where a photograph or a piece of music, a document, research dataset, or the signal from weather sensor has a price proven and a proof of authenticity built in. Yeah, that would be the digital product. Anyone from an individual with internet access to a multinational could buy, sell, and license digital information directly without intermediaries. Yep, that is huge. Raw data is abundant and infinitely replicable, but once structured into standardized timestamps outputs, it becomes scarce, ownable, and enforceable as property, protected from censorship, alteration, or theft. The creators would no longer be the product of the big tech platforms, but sovereign caretakers of their digital footprint. Absolutely. Securing the provenance of data on one unified blockchain would open up to seamless value exchange globally. Through the adoption of such a unified blockchain tool, anyone would be able to exchange value with another party irrespective of who or where they are, and no matter how big or small the exchange is. This is not a futuristic dream. The protocol enabling this to become our reality has existed since the 3rd of January 2009. and there have been no other players who have picked up the challenge. The reason? Price hype and speculative tokens with little or no real-world utility have clouded our vision, and it is difficult to claim that it has not been intentional. Absolutely. As the author shall demonstrate, there is only one blockchain capable of making this lawful data market possible, and it is Bitcoin. However, there is a twist. It is not the Bitcoin with the ticker BTC touted as digital gold and constantly given attention to in the media. It is the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision blockchain with the ticker BSV. BSV, either completely unknown to crypto enthusiasts or subject of a ridicule for its low price and absence from the crypto exchanges, has prevented the original Bitcoin protocol laid out so elegantly by the pseudonymous Satoshi Nakamoto on the 31st of October 2008 white paper entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. BSV has been kept in the shadows, misrepresented, sidelined, or simply misunderstood. The aim of this article is simple: to prove that only one blockchain can commoditize digital data, to show why other blockchains cannot do this technically or legally, and also to explain its importance of the future of economics and society itself. If we get this right, we will have the truth layer for the internet, a single unified lawful system where the digital data acquires attributes akin to those of a physical asset, enabling value to flow as easily as information. Every person with a mobile phone will be able to participate in a value-based economy that transcends intermediaries, political systems, and borders. And unlike debt-based extractive economic reality of today, this new economy will be rooted in authentic exchange of value for value. The Genesis block, an irrevocable offer to the world. To understand why BSV is unique, we need to go back to the beginning. On the 3rd of January 2009, the first block of the Bitcoin blockchain known as the Genesis block was created. This was an offer to the world. Built into the system was a fixed supply of 21 million coins, with no possibility for this supply to change. The coins would come into existence gradually, block by block, and validating miners ratify transactions and secure the network. This process of miners validating and extracting coins is called mining. Note the elegant use of language that clarifies what the internet was from the very beginning, to create a vehicle for commoditization of the coins, peer-to-peer cash, per the title of the white paper. However, this was not all. The BSV blockchain is also the engine for commoditizing digital data secured on it, hence the name bits of data and coin money. There are many carefully considered elements covered in Satoshi Nakamoto's brilliantly succinct white paper, making this ingenious data commoditization system a reality. Critically, the Genesis block was created as an orphan. It had no parent, no pre-mined supply, no central entity or authority from which the coins originated. In simple terms, this means there was no founder, stash, or privileged starting position. Validators would have to compete in open proof of work to earn coins, mining. This makes Bitcoin fundamentally different from any system where there is control, whereby a company, a foundation, a group of developers, or a government. Sometimes this control is obfuscated and labels such decentralized are slapped on to detract interested parties from trying to gain a deeper understanding of the structure, obscuring how strings may slightly be pulled behind the curtain, shaping development. Why is this orphan structure important for commoditizing data? Because the economic model of Bitcoin, as originally designed, linked the coins to the processing and timestamping of data. Each block didn't just extract coins; it recorded an immutable ledger of transactions and data. In effect, every piece of data, once structured into a transaction output, took on the qualities of a commodity unit, timestamped, verifiable, and permanently recorded on the blockchain. The coin itself is the linear, unbroken sequence of ownership transfers, evidenced by digital signatures secured by cryptographic hashing and validated by the network. We'll explore in more detail what a commodity is below, but it is worth noting here that a commodity requires universal acceptance, with scalability being a necessity for this to become a reality. Although we have not yet reached the point of universal acceptance required for full commoditization, the technical and legal foundations are in place. When the protocol is preserved, as it is in BSV, this mechanism allows data itself to be priced, traded, and transferred with the same legal clarity as a physical commodity. The ledger is both the market and the registry all in one. Well, it's more of a record a record rather than a registry, but that's all right. Why Satoshi Nakamoto's unique design matters. Any subsequent players launching tokenized coins, tokenized coins or tokenized tokens, using blockchain technology, either have attempted or abandoned this extraordinary design. BTC, which the public now believes is Bitcoin, capped block size is so small that storing meaningful data was impossible, moving much of the ingenious work out of Satoshi Nakamoto's so-called second layer. Work on there. Applications off-chain, introducing consensus-based protocol, nurturing its utility. Other introduced pre-mined pools of coins or foundation control undermine the decentralization that makes lawful commodity markets work. For commodities are assets in their own right, not tied to any founder, issuer or sponsor, and not tied to developer groups who have the ability to change the rules of the game. Thousands of speculative tokens have entered the scene, detached from any underlying utility. Due to the deafening noise of the market hype and the collective scarcity mindset that has plagued us for generations, these alternative blockchains and the tokens created on them have gained a lot of traction. They continue to do so due to price hype, but price is not the same as value. Value is based on utility, and these blockchains lack utility. Marketing campaigns have amplified speculative hype, but hype is not the same as value. Only BSV has restored and preserved the original protocol exactly as it was at its inception on the 3rd of January 2009, with its orphan structure with no central issuer. It was Satoshi Nakamoto that actually issued the orphan structure of the block. But the thing is, though, this is why he had to commoditize the starting point and release the white paper on the 31st of October to make sure that the network itself wasn't a securitized network, because if he just started the network himself without giving a common opportunity for anybody else to do the same, then it would be considered a security. But in the same way that gold was already in the ground waiting to be discovered by someone, the Bitcoin network also had to be started by someone. But because the starting point was commoditized, it means it's not securitized. So therefore, it's still a common starting point. But he's still the issuer of that. But it's just everybody had the common opportunity to start it themselves. So with this orphan structure with no central issuer, well, Satoshi issued it, but to just explain that. No artificial scaling limits and a proven capacity to handle unbounded scaling with a sustained multi-million transaction capacity per day, demonstrating high transactions per second, throughput at fractions of a cent in cost. The Terranode enhancement to the architecture makes this a practical reality. This is not just a technical achievement, it's the foundation for a global data marketplace, the very mechanism by which data is standardized into tradable units with property rights enforceable at scale. The protocol is by necessity set in stone, absolutely, with a fixed and inviolable set of base rules, comprising sufficient extendability to support future functionality. This concept, articulated by Satoshi Nakamoto and later defended by writers like Zem Gao, recognized that innovation should occur on top of the protocol, not within it. In other words, tools and technologies may evolve to enhance privacy, identity, security, user experience and scalability, but the rules governing the transfer of value and the integrity of the ledger must remain constant over time. Absolutely. Such immutability is the precondition for decentralization itself. A protocol that changes with governance votes or central planning cannot be trustless or neutral. Absolutely. And that's what the shitcoiners and shit for brains over at BTC is starting to realize, but they probably won't be able to articulate it this well. Also, a locked-based protocol creates backward compatibility, a requirement for enterprise and sovereign adoption. As we will see, protocol stability is essential for commodity status, since only a system with a standalone issuer-independent existence can function as a true commodity. The fixed protocol gives the BSV Association, an independent non-profit organization established in Switzerland, its mandate to be the stewards of a locked protocol, not discretionary policy. Locking removes unilateral change and reduces centralized discretion relative to governance by committee models. The BSV Association is the guardian of Satoshi Nakamoto's vision, with the mandate to protect the protocol and ensure any development stays true to the original blueprint. From vision to obfuscation, first comes the vision. In the beginning, Bitcoin was not about crypto at all. It was never meant to be. It was about digital cash, a peer-to-peer payment network that could record and exchange value without requiring trust in banks, governments, or any third party acting as a middleman. Note the use by Satoshi Nakamoto of the word cash. This was no accident. Satoshi Nakamoto is showing us in the title of the title to the Bitcoin white paper that his intention was always to create a value exchange technology with attributes equivalent to the use of physical notes and coins, but with all the advantages of being in a digital sphere, enabling trading between anyone, anywhere, and ensuring traceability. Satoshi Nakamoto did not use the word currency, which is merely a representation of something issued by an issuer or sponsor. Using the US dollar as an example, the funds recorded in your bank account, numbers on a screen, are in a ledger, representing the right to physical notes or coins equivalent to the amount documented on the ledger, whereas cash in the form of dollar bills can be held in your hand, stuffed into your pocket, or sewed into your mattress. You transfer cash by handing over physical possession. Electronic currency, your bank balance, on the other hand, has no physical attributes and is moved by data entries on a ledger. It is merely an accounting. This is where the beautiful alchemy of Satoshi Nakamoto's work shines through. He did not want others. It's true. He did what others thought not to be possible. He could turn digital data, normally intangible and infinitely copyable, into something behaving like a physical asset, scarce, gregarious, and transferable. But this was not all. Now that we have unraveled that Satoshi Nakamoto designed a system for peer-to-peer digital cash, as alluded to above, there is another profound capability for the blockchain to be used as a universal ledger for all forms of digital data. Absolutely. It is important to distinguish between mere information and data that has been standardized into a commodity. In its raw form, digital data is infinite and non-gregarious. Anyone can copy a file without distinguishing the original. But once recorded on the BSV blockchain, data is placed into transaction outputs, discrete and verifiable units anchored to the ledger. Each transaction output carries a timestamp, a proof of origin, and ownership defined by a private key. This process transforms amorphous information into rivarous ownable asset, scarce in its instance, executable without a key, excludable without a key, and transferable as property. Just as grain becomes a commodity once it is measured into bushels and stored in a silo, bytes of digital content become a commodity once structured, time-stamped, and secured on BSV. This is how digital data for the first time acquires economic attributes of a physical asset, making a lawful global market possible. This was the part almost no one saw or wanted to see. The idea of using BSV blockchain to register and trade data barely got a mention and it continues to remain this way every day, or even today. Then comes the obfuscation. By the mid-2010s, a plethora of alternative blockchains and tokens had emerged. Most were created not to solve real-world problems, but to raise funds quickly through ICOs, using pre-mined coins, fueling speculative hype, drowning any discussions about the real utility blockchain and distributed ledger technology offered to the world. Most early Bitcoin adopters focused on it as a new form of value exchange, often in opposition to the traditional financial system, and this indeed was Satoshi Nakamoto's first goal to be achieved. Then came the forks. At BTC in 2017, a group of developers and businesses pushed through protocol changes that artificially limit its capacity by enforcing small block sizes and removing key opcodes. The small block sizes was 2010. But yeah, 2017 was SegWit. Due to the constraints imposed on the block size, making it impossible to store significant amounts of data on chain, most of the functionality was built in a second layer above the foundational layer, reducing Bitcoin to a slow, high-fee settlement system. Crucially, the digital signature structure, using a combination of public and private keys, was moved off-chain from the foundation layer, in effect severing the chain of custody from the ledger itself, thereby nullifying the very feature that made it a commodity. These changes led to campaigns to change the image of BTC from peer-to-peer cash system, which now was unattainable with the block size constraints, to digital gold, to something to hold or hodl in the hope it would increase in price over time. BCH created a reaction to BTC's scaling limits. BCH, or Bitcoin Cash, did make increases to the block size, stating that it would increase it further as demand grew, but still making incomputable changes to the protocol, breaking the economic and technical rules Satoshi Nakamoto had set in place. It too drifted towards a short-term political compromise that didn't seek to restore the original design. Yep, spot on. BSV restoring Bitcoin's immutable economic engine. In all the noise, the original protocol was seemingly lost, yet in the background Satoshi Nakamoto was biding his time and preparing a strategy for salvaging his invention, and it wasn't until 2018 when the original Bitcoin re-emerged under the new ticker symbol BSV, and subsequently with the completion of the Genesis restoration in 2020 that the original rules were re-enabled. Unlimited block size, enabling any amount of data to be processed and recorded without relying on secondary layers, sidechains or congestion workarounds. Full opcode set, restoring the scripting functions needed for smart contracts and other complex data transactions. Protocol stability, restoring locked rules with no ability to make changes to the foundations by core developer groups, informal committees or consensus vote. Legal auditability, deterministic transaction ordering, traceability and enforceability, essential for compliance, property rights and asset recovery, with court orders, reassignment, operating within existing rule sets, not granting unilateral backdoors, a prerequisite for enterprise and sovereign adoption. Economic incentives, miners competing for rewards for processing transactions and securing data, ensuring the economic incentive for the miners are aligned, with rewards increasing the amount of data being processed and added to the blockchain grows. IPv6, compatibility and IP to IP functionality, and ability to route peer-to-peer at the protocol level, enabling it to become the base layer for the new Web3 internet. This restoration matters because without the original rules, the market for digital data simply is unable to operate. A lawful commodity market demand depends on scale, permanence, and predictable legal and economic foundations, things no other blockchain can deliver. With BSV having been enabled as the engine able to do this, with no other blockchain able to demonstrate that it meets these combined legal and technical requirements, BSV can claim title for being the one and only engine for the commoditization of the world's digital output. While the rest of the industry chases speculative gains, BSV quietly became the only blockchain where it is both technically possible and legally viable to trade data as a commodity at scale, ready to meet global demands. It's not about winning the ticker, but preserving the protocol. BSV is not a fork. When BSV restored the original Bitcoin protocol, it was not creating something new. It was reverting to the exact rule set Satoshi Nakamoto deployed in 2009, with its genealogy tracing unbroken back to the Genesis block itself. This continuity of protocol is what makes BSV the authentic implementation of Bitcoin as designed. BTC and BCH, by contrast, are the forks, having severed their direct lineage from the Genesis block by introducing protocol changes which separated them technically and economically. Absolutely. Arguably, BTC and BCH should not be considered forks at all. They have deviated from the protocol, which by its very design meant to be immutable. Immutability was in fact the protocol keystone upon which everything else was built. They changed the rules, and BTC claimed the ticker. The question is which protocol implements the Bitcoin design, not which ticker owns the name. Critics point out that BSV has to date had low adoption and is trading at a price that is currently negligible to BTC, claiming that the market has made the choice not to adopt it. This is a misconception, as the legal and technical structure is a prerequisite for lawful global adoption. Speculative adoption is irrelevant. The legal commodity test and why only BSV passes. Oh, this should be interesting. The cryptocurrency industry thrives on blurred lines. Project founders, token promoters, and even regulators often use the term commodity and security interchangeably, frequently deviating from established legal tests, muddying the public's understanding of what these tokens really are. But the distinctions matter, and it is central to understanding why only BSV can rightfully claim to be a commodity, acting as the foundation for a lawful market for digital data. What makes something a commodity? A commodity is a fungible good. Fungible good with a uniform quality capable of being itemized and categorized, enabling it to be bought and sold on an open market. Commodities are typically extracted or grown, spot on, and the largest commodity types are raw metals such as raw materials such as crude oil or gold bars of a certain purity, and agricultural commodities such as wheat or pork bellies. Critically, commodities are not dependent on the managerial or entrepreneurial efforts of a single party for their value. They are an asset in their own right, graded, weighed, measured, or otherwise grouped together in a uniform way to make pricing and trading possible, without each commodity being bought or sold having to be physically inspected. A commodity's market price comes from its utility, absolutely, and or scarcity, affecting its supply and demand, not from speculative hype and promises of future performance or an issuer or sponsor. When applied to digital assets, this means that the asset must exist in its own right, be fully functional from inception, not rely on an issuer, sponsor, or other central promoter for its success, and it must have a transparent and immutable supply. In the digital realm, this translates to uniformity, all coins interchangeable and standardized data structures, and a stable protocol. Fungibility, no restrictions or differentiation beyond amount. A marketability, on-chain origin, economically incentivized miners, global liquidity, and legal enforceable rights. On BSV, these criteria apply not only to the coin but also data once recorded on chain. A file, document, or sensor reading, once placed into a transactional output, becomes a standardized unit with provenance, time-stamped and enforceable with ownership, fit for commodity markets in the same way that metals and grains are once graded and standardized. That's not quite right. So that when she said here, a file, document, or sensor reading once placed into a transaction output, they are products. They're products because they are created. But what she's saying is once they're placed into a transaction output, becomes a standardized unit with provenance. So you can prove ownership, that you actually own that digital product that you've created. So therefore royalties and things like that. Time-stamped and enforceable ownership, fit for commodity market. Not commodity. Literally, the only commodity is the Bitcoin itself, like BSV Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, not the network, the actual coin itself. The coin is the NFT data. That is the commodity, because you buy that commodity in order to upload your digital products onto the network. So these are digital products that she's talking about. It's the coin itself, the actual Bitcoin itself is the only digital commodity, but close enough. Fit for commodity markets in the same way that metals and grains are once graded and standardized. This means that units of digital information with standardized structure, provenance, and enforceable rights can be traded as commodities on the BSV ledger. The only commodity is BSV itself. They are anything that's actually created, digital content that's created, is a product. That's what it is. So digital products are built on the BSV network because the BSV network is the only commoditized network. You upload the data to the commoditized network, ensuring that you have ownership of that data by buying the commodity that is the BSV token, if that makes sense. I know it's complicated, but people need to know this. The coin is the fee settlement medium, and the ledger is the commodity registry. The the coin is the actual commodity that records the data on the commoditized network, because the coin couldn't be a commodity itself unless it came from a commoditized network, and a commoditized network can't exist unless it's economically maintained or sustained, which is why the network itself has to produce a commoditized digital asset, which is Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies are and should be securitized by law. Securities by law. The thousands of cryptocurrencies flooding the market, including BTC, do not satisfy the commodity status test explored above. The author would like to postulate that they are securities and the law should recognize them as such. Absolutely. A security has no independent existence. A security has no independent existence. Yep, true, because it's issued. It derives its value from something else, and the purchaser of a security places reliance on the performance of a third party. In each jurisdiction, there is typically a securities regulator, such as the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, which lays out rules designed to protect investors in securities. I should probably mention later on that the issue with cryptocurrencies is that when the creators say, oh, these don't fit the definition of a security, well, that's because they're securities fraud. The testing in the United States for whether or not a financial instrument is an investment contract qualifying as a security and therefore regulated by the SEC stems from what is commonly referred to as the Howey test, laid out by the United States Supreme Court in SEC versus W.J. Howey Co. 1946. The Howey test has 3 prongs: requiring the investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit, and with the profits derived from the efforts of others. 4, that is. The investor is motivated by return on its investment. If a cryptocurrency has no real-world utility, is founded, sponsored, and or run by an entity who is perhaps also actively promoting it, then you can probably tell that it leans towards an investment with the expectation of profits, and that such profits derive from the efforts of others, rendering it a security. Tokens sold in ICOs, pre-mined coins, governance tokens, and central developer teams are textbook examples of undeniable security offerings. Yeah, absolutely. Contrary to the headlines, the courts did not declare XRP not a security in the much talked about Ripple case. Judge Annalisa Torres in 2023's decision simply held that certain secondary market transactions were not securities offerings. The judge in itself leaves a lot of legal uncertainty, oddly rendering the most valuable retail investors vulnerable retail investors with no regulatory protection from the SEC, while sophisticated institutional investors would be afforded such protection. The legal nature of XRP tokens remains unsettled by a court or regulator. Yeah, I mean, XRP is completely centralized. It's pre-mined. It's pre-mined. Nobody has got the opportunity to create XRP themselves. And XRP is not a competitive system. It's not extracted. Literally, Ripple Labs own and controls the whole thing. It's insane. But again, if Ripple, if the judge declared that Ripple was a security, then that would blow the cover of the fact that every single other crypto token is also a security. And we know that the regulators and the judiciary are financed by the banks. So whatever the banks want, they get, and they don't want XRP to be classified as a security. Because basically it's securities fraud, but they're hiding that as we'd expect. The author purports that even BTC functions as a security, and here's why. As a matter of economic substance, BTC functions like a security, and it is a security. It was issued by Blockstream. The original Bitcoin protocol, intended to be immutable, was altered by consensus rules by a small group of core developers. This means that other changes to the protocol can be made too. BTC is therefore not an asset that can exist in its own right. Furthermore, by migrating the practical chain of custody for everyday payments off-chain with implementation of the second layer Lightning Network, the provenance of on-chain routine commerce is weakened. The original protocol uses a chain of digital signatures, cleverly designed using a combination of public and private keys to guarantee privacy but not secrecy, enabling ownership to be traced on chain. This enshrines the physicality in the digital context, and the loss of this feature invalidates BTC's ability to claim an independent existence, akin to a troy ounce of 24 karat gold or 1,000 kilograms of wheat. Without an on-chain chain of custody, BTC loses its commodity characteristics. In 2015, the United States Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, in what has become known as the Derivative Order and the Terra Order, held that Bitcoin and other virtual currencies fall within the definition of a commodity under the Commodities Exchange Act 1933. There are two things to note here. The CFTC has not shed much, if any, light on its legal reasoning for its conclusion in either of these two orders. There is no substantive test to point to. Also, it is worth noting these orders were made in 2015 when BTC was operating under the original Bitcoin protocol and there had been no forking, so they cannot be assumed to apply to today's BTC, but they still provide a useful precedent for the BSV's claim. The legal and regulatory position still remains opaque, but hopefully there will be more clarity in the near future as the current cloudy landscape thwarts development. We are seeing some potentially positive developments in the United States, and hopefully this will pave the way for further decisive legislative efforts in other jurisdictions. BSV paves the way for data commoditization. Because it is both legally sound and technically scalable, BSV is uniquely positioned to make digital data a lawful commodity. Data can be recorded on-chain permanently, structured into discrete outputs with a proof of origin, ownership, and time stamping. Miners provide the service of securing and delivering that data economically, incentivized and competing in a free market. There is no central authority controlling what the rules of the game are, what is stored, or who can transact. No other blockchain can offer all these, either failing the legal requirements or designed in such a way that it relies on third parties, and crucially lacking scalability. The birth of a freestanding commodity requires all of these attributes to be present. BSV and the Internet's immutable truth layer. For decades, the internet has become the greatest communication tool humanity has ever built, but also one of the least reliable when it comes to truth. In its current form, the web is a patchwork of privately controlled platforms, proprietary databases, and information silos. We take it for granted that content can be deleted without trace, histories can be rewritten with fewer keystrokes, and ownership and authorship are endlessly disputable. It has become difficult, if not impossible, to distinguish the real truth from the truth presented to us. Absolutely. The result, a digital environment where trust is manufactured by reputation or branding rather than by objective proof. Trust must be reduced to a popularity contest. Absolutely. What a truth layer really means. A truth layer is not a buzzword. It is the ability to anchor every digital event, transaction, or record in a public, unchangeable, and independently verifiable ledger. It is the foundation where every data point has a provable timestamp. Every claim to ownership comes with cryptographic proof, and every change leaves an unalterable trail. Cheating for short-term games comes at a cost, as it will leave a footprint behind that can never be removed. Absolutely. This is not about decentralization in the ideological sense. It's about building an internet where data can be trusted without asking permission to verify it. Why only one blockchain can do it? To serve as a global truth layer, and a blockchain must scale without limit to handle billions of transactions daily without friction. Absolutely. Offer microtransaction level fees down to 1/100 of a cent to make it economically viable for anyone anywhere to monetize even the smallest amount of data. Absolutely. Be stable in protocol, future-proof, so that applications built today will still work decades from now with no reliance having to be placed on third parties to make changes to the rules of the game. And be lawful, meaning compliant with property rights, contract enforcement, and existing legal systems. Only Bitcoin SV meets these criteria. Every other blockchain either hits a scale wall, can change their rules unpredictably, or operate outside legal norms, all fatal flaws of a universal truth layer. From truth to value, once the truth layer exists, value creation flows naturally. Absolutely. Individuals can own their own digital footprint and be paid for its use. Businesses can trade, license, and monetize data directly. Entire industries can move from closed databases to interoperable, provable records. This is how digital data becomes a commodity, not by speculation, but by functioning as a tradable, standardized, provable asset and secured by the blockchain itself, where each unit of data behaves like a commodity lot, measurable, standardized, scarce, ownable, and transferable under clear property rights, enabling trade, governments, and knowledge preservation. Verifying the world's data economy. The global economy today is fragmented by borders, currencies, and incompatible systems. Even within a single country, different industries operate on their own closed databases, proprietary standards, and separate payment rails. The result is inefficiency, duplication, and friction. And we've come to accept it as this is the way things are, unable to see how it could be done better. The BSV blockchain changes that. By offering a single stable public ledger, it creates the possibility of a unified data economy for worldwide use where records are immutable, transactions final, and value can flow alongside information. An economy where trust is built into the system, where intermediaries become optional rather than compulsory, and where every connected person on the planet can participate in the same open, verifiable marketplace. This is not about replacing every local system overnight. It is about providing a common backbone that can be universally accepted, yet privately secured, so that industries and individuals can transact, record, and verify data with complete confidence. Instead of every bank, supply chain, media company, and government agency maintaining its own siloed truth, all can interact on the same foundational layer without ceding control of their internal operations. Absolutely. When any piece of information can be timestamped, verified, and traded as a commodity, again, any piece of information, it's only the NFT data of Bitcoin itself that is the commodity. Everything else is a product because it's created. The internet transforms from a realm of free flowing, but what gives the appearance of being valueless content into value-based economy. Micropayments make it viable to charge fractions of a cent of data access. The property rights enforcement ensures that creators can protect and monetize their work without dependence on central platforms. This new approach to how we value and share data will bring back authentic expression, with content synthetically pushed in front of the masses, gradually losing its appeal. Every voice and unique expression will be valued. Absolutely. Great point there. This is the world's missing digital commons. Absolutely. A public utility designed for the world's population, able to support billions of users, settle trillions of transactions per day, and give billions of individuals access to the global marketplace. Once this backbone is in place, our finances need no longer be trapped in corporate silos, speculative crypto tokens, or national currencies. National currencies could conceivably be migrated to the BSV blockchain, improving transparency and removing inflationary money printing. Value moves at the speed of light, in amounts as small or as large as required, backed by the legal certainty that property rights confer. Without property rights, commoditization is meaningless. BSV's design ensures that digital assets recorded on its ledger are legally recognizable and recoverable. When we discover that the true value-based economy can archive, the allure of attractive speculative financial tools will quickly fade into irrelevance. Absolutely. The distinction between products and services that add real value and those which merely absorb existing value will become evident to us. The promise is simple but revolutionary. One network, one protocol, one digital truth layer. Legal clarity, global transformation, and the genius of Satoshi Nakamoto. A unified data economy cannot function in the shadows of legal uncertainty. For BSV to serve as a truth layer of the internet, it must operate within and and strengthen existing legal frameworks. This is where legislative initiatives such as the Genius Act and Clarity Act in the United States becomes pivotal. Both point towards a future in which tokenized coins are clearly classified as either commodities or securities, based not on hype or market popularity, but on their structure, issuance, and function. Under such scrutiny, today's cryptocurrencies would be recognized as securities, as they rely on centralized teams, marketing campaigns, and the speculative efforts of others to generate returns. In contrast, BSV meets the criteria of a commodity. It is fixed in supply, fungible, not issued by any central promoter, and governed entirely by open, stable protocol rules that have been in place since its beginnings in 2009. This makes it uniquely suited to act as the global lawful substrate for data ownership, trade, and monetization. Hopefully, the new legislative efforts in the United States will bring the much needed legal clarity, and other countries will follow suit. What about all the other blockchains? Just like there is no need for many different intranets, there is no need for hundreds of base layer blockchains. This will merely work to thwart global interoperability. What is needed is one unified protocol layer, open, legally sound, economically scalable, on which applications can run. Data can be commoditized. Again, it's only the BSV data that's commoditized, but they can be digital information can be produced and as a package and packaged, and global commerce can thrive. Tokens and applications built on other non-profit for profit purpose blockchains can be migrated to the BSV blockchain, so that all the great innovations taking place on a variety of different blockchains will not be lost. As standards consolidate, similar to how the internet converged on one suite of protocols, applications and tokenized instruments will seamlessly move to a single lawful base layer. With the unified base layer as the starting point, the possibility for unbounded diversity at the application layer becomes unlocked, increasing creative throughput, not thwarting innovation. This also means that there is a potential for tokenized coins created on other blockchains to transaction over to the BSV blockchain, and we are likely to see this with, for example, stablecoins and tokenized gold or silver forming a sound basis for a new financial system. The deeper one studies the Bitcoin white paper, the clearer it becomes. Not a single aspect of the design was an accident. Quite to the contrary, every single conceivable permutation was carefully considered from inception. It is an elegantly engineered vessel for global value exchange, lawful, scalable, and incorruptible. For that, we owe gratitude to Satoshi Nakamoto, not as a mythical figure to be worshipped, but as a brilliant architect whose incredible design stands unmatched. One cannot help but recognize the depth of Satoshi Nakamoto's foresight, a design so complete that even after years of diversion and misunderstanding, it stands ready to underpin the next global economic paradigm. Bitcoin was his gift to the world. Understanding it fully is our responsibility, and using it wisely is our opportunity. The inevitable shift. We are standing at the edge of a profound economic and technological turning point. For more than a century, our systems have been built on abstractions, all dependent on trust in intermediaries. Those intermediaries have grown powerful, but they have also become increasingly extractive, opaque, and fragile. Bitcoin, in its original form as preserved in BSV, replaces that with the verifiable truth. It transforms data from an intangible cost center into a monetizable commodity with physical-like attributes and enforceable ownership rights, opening the door to a value-based economy where creativity, productivity, and ownership are rewarded instantly. This shift is not decades away. It is ready now, and the moment legal clarity inspects with a public understanding, change will shift. When the world realizes it can transact, record, and exchange value without intermediaries siphoning from every step, adoption will feel less like a revolution and more like the sudden lifting of a fog. And when that happens, we may look back on this moment and recognize it for what it was: the dawn of a new economy built on truth, transparency, and trustless integrity. An economy built on value and humanity and human creativity, not extraction. An economy which makes abundance possible for those seeking it. Satoshi Nakamoto's genius was in the timeless principles that he embedded into the code he wrote. Principles that make the transaction from scarcity to substance not just possible but inevitable. This is the shift from information as a free-floating cost center to data as enforceable property. Absolutely. This internet gives us information. BSV gives us ownership. By turning raw data into standardized, discrete timestamp outputs with provable ownership, what was once infinite and replicatable becomes scarce, ownable, and transferable with property rights enforced by the protocol itself. This is the missing foundation from a lawful, value-based global economy. When the world is ready, the infrastructure is already in place to restore trust, property rights, and lawful value exchange at scale. Quotes here: to have dignity, we merely need to do more than we take as value in society. Consequently, dignity requires growth. In a growing society, a growing economy, people can feel that they are adding value. But many of the measures associated with growth are valueless in themselves. The movement of monetary instruments between financial organizations is not growth. The appreciation in the price of housing property is not growth. Growth requires the development and creation of new capital, new products. Quote here from CSW. Brilliant. And there we go. That's the end of the article. That was epic. Well, that is a 1 hour, 5 minute show, ladies and gentlemen. What a fantastic article that was by Anna. Like, very in depth. The only thing that needs correcting is just simply that the NFT data extracted from the Bitcoin network is the commodity. That's the only digital commodity in the world. Everything else that's created on top of that is a product. Really good. Right, check this out though. So a little bit of 365 days of Bitcoin. Today is the anniversary of the purchase and creation of the domain name bitcoin.org when it was registered. And we can check out here. There we go. Domain bitcoin.org registered on the 18th of August 2008. And check this out. We've got this. Let's have a look at this BitShoot video. We go. Look, it says log out Satoshi. That means that Satoshi Nakamoto is already logged in. Hosting 1 year. Amount purchased. So the domain name hosting, €589, and the purchase of the bitcoin.org domain, €79.9. There we go. Look, domain name hosting. Bitcoin.org and Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin.org. Oh, and would you believe it? Look at that. So whoever it is that is logged in under Satoshi Nakamoto's profile there, that bought the domain Bitcoin.org, is in possession of Craig Wright's passport. Would you believe it? Would you believe it? Oh, wow. Epic. Shitcoiners are not going to enjoy that. But shitcoin is shit for brains. They probably won't figure out the significance of it, and they'll probably just, try and sweep it under the rug, I guess. This was just a little bit of 365 days of Bitcoin history on the 18th of August 2010. Satoshi wrote, definitely the old screenshots from 0.1 are very outdated. Windows Aero was a good choice. Windows is still the largest user group. Mind what's behind it for the transparent parts. What to have displayed in the transaction list. Not completely filled up with stuff. Just a few things. Just general email chit chatter there. Right, there we go. We are now on the... Oh, let's have a look at... There was something else I think I was going to look at. That's all right. Let's have a look at my channel. Look, 5,157 subscribers. That's pretty good. Loving that. Right, with the Kellen Schwell account. Oh, that's what I was going to look at. I knew there was something. My channel. I'm just going to look at a reply here that I found really quite funny. With regard to somebody asking what the Kellen Schweller countdown was. Grok had given an answer. This looks really funny. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on one second. No. Is it related to this one? Is that one? Oh, here we go. Oh, somebody deleted it. That's a shame. That was really funny. They deleted Grok's answer to what was the Kellenschweller countdown. Andrew Bain said here, sorry if I missed this, but I've been meaning to ask for ages. What is the Kellenschweller countdown and what happens at the end? Thanks. Well, you're going to have to wait and see. That's the whole point. You're not going to want to miss this. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's going to be epic. But it was really there was somebody posted a reply from Grok. They've just deleted it. But it was actually really funny. And I was going to read it out on the show. Oh, that's a real shame. You can see my 3 laughing emojis there at it. But there we go. We are now the 18th of August. We've got 31 days left of the Kellenschweller countdown. So remember, like and subscribe. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss all the shenanigans between now and the end of the countdown. It's going to be epic. Believe me. All right, let's have a quick look at the price there. Top left, they're trying to push it down. $26.82. But we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it as ever. Be aware, take care. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
The king still has one more move.